Earlier today was the Xbox and Bethesda game showcase, and here I want to give you my thoughts on it. This ranging from my perhaps controversial opinions on the Avowed reveal to what I really think about Starfield. And there are timestamps down below so you can skip around if you want to. Starting off with Avowed, I feel like showing this game was almost a roller coaster for me. From the opening, I almost thought it was a new Assassin's Creed game, but that quickly went away as we get to see the Living Lands in all its glory. The Living Lands is the name of the world in Avowed, and it looks phenomenal here. I felt like some of the environments had certain similarities to what we saw with the Outer Worlds, but many of the interior and exterior locations I thought looked really well done and had a lot of detail in them. Although when you transition over to the art style overall, as you start to see some of the armors, enemies, and even combat, this I wasn't as big of a fan of. I feel like with Avowed they went for more of a fantasy aesthetic, and at times the visuals when you had actual characters on screen felt almost Sea of Thieves-esque to me. The reason this is notable or interesting is if you look back at that 2020 teaser, that just looked way more grounded and serious, while this most recent gameplay reveal had more fantastical elements to it. This isn't entirely shocking. We heard some rumors that Avowed actually had a reboot internally, so perhaps part of the reboot was actually a change in the art style of that game. And with that said, it didn't completely ruin things for me. What got me most excited about this world is this interesting cross of firearms, swords, but also magic infused throughout all of it. And when you consider that those familiar Obsidian RPG mechanics should be on top, it should really bring this all together in a really interesting way. It's really rare for a trailer for a completely new game to get me thinking about different build paths and how those could be interesting, but Avowed managed to do that. And these spell animations that they show off are just ridiculously good looking. I absolutely love them, and I think the design of many of the creatures impressed me for sure. So for me, it was almost like Avowed won in some areas and really lost in some others. I don't like the visuals. It reminded me of Sea of Thieves or even ESO in a way, but thankfully it's Obsidian, so I don't really care all that much about the visuals, and hopefully we do get a deeper dive into some of the RPG mechanics at some point. And one of the things that really struck me around this trailer is Obsidian is being known as one of the top RPG devs in literally the world right now. So you would think that they would show at least something around this in the trailer, whether it be a dialogue scene, a skill tree, or just some kind of RPG mechanic. But this trailer almost made it feel like Avowed was an action-adventure game, which surely it isn't, right? For me, the Avowed trailer didn't really increase or decrease my hype at all. Visually, I wasn't a big fan, but the combat mechanics I thought looked really interesting. So overall, I just walked away feeling pretty neutral, almost feeling the exact same way as I did before about this game. Although, if you are a fan of Pillars of Eternity, which is set in the same universe as Avowed, I think this art style does look pretty similar to that game, and this could be a big win for you. One of the other big questions I'm left with after this is that broad 2024 release date. First half of 2024 would be insane, a nice follow-up to Starfield and Phantom Liberty, but at the same time, late 2024 isn't that bad either. Back-to-back years of huge RPGs coming out for Xbox, but then we also got our first look at In Exile's new steampunk RPG, Clockwork Revolution, and this looks really interesting. This is another one that almost gave me Outer Worlds vibes, at least in the world building with those corporations, but then also the heavy BioShock influence and the city style can be seen here. This is going to be a game with some kind of time manipulation mechanic. It's hard to tell exactly how things will work from this trailer, but it looks really, really interesting to me. And one of the biggest takeaways I had is just the style of the city and some of the enemies look really fun. In Exile make really high quality RPGs, and it looks like this is going to be another one. Brian Fargo said that Clockwork Revolution is a true RPG with all of the stats, crunchy details, and deep reactivity that they're known for. So taking into consideration all of that, but then also this really unique steampunk style that I haven't seen in any modern RPGs, or at least not in a long time, and also this time manipulation mechanic, it seems like this could really be a standout game, one of the real RPGs of the decade. I thought this trailer did a great job at teasing the game and the world. It got me interested, but we still don't really know much about what's going on here. Hopefully it's not years until we see more like Avowed, but hopefully by next year's summer showcase we get another deep dive into the game with gameplay and an actual release date. Then we have some of the Bethesda Game Studios stuff, starting with Fallout 76. This Fallout 76 trailer was just bizarre to me. The trailer itself was honestly super well done, but it felt like it was just an advertisement for the existing game, not really teasing or sharing all that much new, outside of there being some kind of Atlantic City content coming at some point. And what made this bizarre to me is, despite how long this trailer was, there was no actual details on what Atlantic City really entails. Is this an expedition? Is this a new permanent world space that's being added? Can we gamble there? And when they say coming soon, do they mean 2023? and if it is coming in 2023, why didn't they say that? Since the trailer went live, a separate article has come out where they do confirm this is a new expedition and will likely feature the Jersey Devil cryptid. So after how grindy the first pit expedition ended up being, this is honestly not something I'm going to get super hyped for. And this trailer overall left me with more questions than anything else. Fallout 76 seems like it's in a really bad spot right now. We had no roadmap this year, and perhaps made worse by the fact that they never acknowledged that they just skipped a roadmap. Every other year, the game has gotten a roadmap, but not this one for some reason. And just recently, the design director left the company, who was seemingly the person in charge of Fallout 76, so now it's even less clear who's leading this game. Overall, it was a cool trailer, but it really just felt like a commercial more than anything else. And I can't imagine many people saw this and were like, oh yeah, I really have to go play Fallout 76 right now. I definitely would have much preferred a Fallout 4 next-gen trailer over this. But then, of course, the real star of the show, the Starfield stuff that we got, was absolutely awesome. And starting off strong, it seems like we actually may have gotten a preview of Earth in Starfield in this initial shot. This opening shot with an arch looks like it's the St. Louis Arch. And as you can imagine, the St. Louis Arch is located on Earth. So it looks like this could be a very dried out Earth where civilization largely collapsed and instead moved to the stars. I feel like this could be a similar plot to what happened in Interstellar, where basically they started having problems growing food on Earth, and in turn they had to leave Earth because they were running out of food. This mini Starfield trailer we got before the full-on direct looked phenomenal in general. It's pretty clear they have ray tracing on for this one, and things visually were stunning. A clear and notable upgrade over what we had in the 2022 gameplay, and I'm of course going to do a full breakdown on all of this, but not right now because that's probably going to take like a week of effort from me and be a 4-hour video in total. But some of the shots here are just absolutely breathtaking. Seeing all of these smaller ships docked on a larger ship gets me so hyped for the possibilities, as well as all of these space debris floating around it just add a lot to the scene overall. This melee shot feels like our first real good look at the updated and overhauled animation system that is being added for Starfield, as well as all throughout the gameplay we saw, the gunplay just looks absolutely amazing. It's nice and dynamic, and it looks like the weapons have a real weight to them here. And one of the other things I was really impressed with, especially compared with what we got in 2022, were a lot of these space scenes with these ships flying around. The dynamic movements and angling I thought just looked really good, and like we will have extensive control over these spaceships, and then it gets even better as we transition to a full-on Star Wars-esque space battle. And then you have scenes like this that were literally on screen for just a second, but this just looks absolutely amazing. Some foreign planet with terrifying creatures flying about, and visually the lighting here is just top tier. This initial trailer before the direct didn't actually reveal a ton of new info, but I feel like it gave us a clear and loud message that Starfield got a big upgrade on the visual front. I felt like this was the surface level beauty trailer before we got the in-depth gameplay systems in the direct. And getting to see this familiar Bethesda Game Studios loot mechanic was just so pleasant for me. Like yeah, we had this verbally confirmed in the past, but actually seeing it just somehow rises my hype even further for this game. We know with Starfield, Bethesda is operating at about 5 times the size compared to how many people are working on Fallout 4. And I really feel like some of that could be seen here with the level of detail on some of these just random and miscellaneous items. They look great across the board. We also finally get that confirmation that the space anomaly we've been seeing throughout these trailers is just us using our grav drive to jump forward. I think the grav drive is a pretty interesting mechanic. It's basically going to limit how far you could jump around the map. So you'll likely need a higher tier grav drive to get to the edges of the galaxy, or at least the explorable galaxy in Starfield. So you have to imagine there's going to be some hidden things out there, as it'll take you a long time or a lot of resources to get that top tier grav drive. I also really liked how Bethesda used many of the same shots from the previous gameplay here, because it really showed how much of a visual upgrade was done. And some other times you just got a bit more context. This is truly the deep dive, so we got to see more of that gameplay. And something else I found pretty interesting is we could see here at the start of the game, right as we're creating our character, someone has seemingly found the artifact, likely us, because this is the same artifact we bring to Constellation, and it seems like that's how we join Constellation. So it looks like we're just starting off the game having discovered this, or at least it's very, very early on, where it's even before you create your character. The backgrounds in this game seem really interesting. We've heard in the past how these will impact your interactions, and we could see more of that here, but I do wonder how often this actually comes up. Like, you select a background for your character, how many dialogue choices are going to pop up as a result of that? I feel like ever since Life Paths with Cyberpunk 2077, I've been a bit cautious around mechanics like this because I do wonder how prevalent they really are. But between backgrounds and a plethora of traits we can see, it really seems like this will just be the most RPG we have ever seen in a modern Bethesda game. This is actually Bethesda Game Studios' first go at traits in a game, and it really seems like they're delivering on this front. As well as this hunting cephalopod that's shown off is probably my favorite favorite creatures shown so far in the gameplay, as well as I just in general really love the diversity in these creatures. From planet to planet, we've seen all kinds of different creatures, whether it be things that look like large bugs, dinosaurs, creatures that are straight out of a horror movie, or even just a fish that is not actually in water. As well as for me, this boost scene where they're flying over and attacking enemies down below is probably the best looking moment from the gameplay overall, and I would argue this is the best looking moment we've ever seen from a Bethesda Game Studios title. The visuals here are just on a completely different level compared to what we've had in the past. And for me, it's honestly shocking how much of an upgrade this game has gotten since it's only been a year since the last time we had gameplay. One of the other things I really appreciated about this showcase was the transparency we had with a lot of these systems, like on ship upgrading. Here, Bethesda clearly lays out exactly what you can edit about your spaceship. And it seems like they have learned from the settlement system from Fallout 4, where with spaceships and a lot of these other systems like outpost building, there's a happy balance of in-depth for those that do want to go super in-depth, but also simpler and more surface level customization options for those that don't really want to deal with it. I also really enjoy this mechanic of picking up crew at spaceports or even around the galaxy on your ventures. It gives me pirate vibes where you're just creating the ragtag crew that will grow and expand along with you and your adventures. I've seen other games toy with this concept, but Starfield really seems like you can have a diverse and interesting crew of truly different people. And when you consider that this game's going to have a ridiculous amount of dialogue options, I wouldn't be shocked if many of these crew members do have their own backstories and a lot of interactions just with them. I also appreciated the amount of depth we got from the ship combat system. There's going to be a wide variety of different approaches to combat encounters, and considering this developer has literally never had proper vehicles in their games before, it's quite impressive that they have this wealth of options with their first time around on how you can actually use your spaceship in combat. But that's continued onto the ground. There's a huge variety of weapons, and a lot of these designs are really interesting and compelling. You have some familiar pistols like you have nowadays to some crazy futuristic pistols that you're not even really sure what it does. And the combat really looks like it also got an upgrade with this one. The combat we see in Starfield looks like it's a proper FPS game, like a updated Call of Duty, but this is built on a massive sci-fi RPG where you can explore 1,000 planets. It's kind of crazy that the combat looks this good, because you would expect with a game like this something would be falling short, but thus far everything really seems to be delivering, at least in my eyes. And on that note, I would say this is probably my favorite game showcase of all time. Between Bethesda actually showing us real gameplay of all of these various systems and not just panning beauty shots or a CGI trailer, but also I really enjoyed how we got to hear from tons of different voices at Bethesda Game Studios in this one. For me, it really felt like the passion of some of the devs was able to come through from this footage and their opinions, and actually just getting to see them talk about what they worked on specifically. So now I'm sat here watching this 45 minutes of Starfield, or kind of 50 minutes when you add it all together, and I have almost no negatives to comment on about, except for the fact that making a breakdown video on all of this is going to take me a long time and probably take a year off my life. The only two things that I could see some concerns arising over are FPS for one. As I was filming this, Todd Howard confirmed that Starfield is going to be locked at 30 FPS on consoles, and like it's not like that's an option, it is only 30 FPS regardless of which console you play on. But also the skin pack pre-order bonus is a bit weird and interesting. I think having a skin pack for a Bethesda Game Studios game is odd. They've never really done something like that before. But outside of that, everything else here has looked exceptional. I'm completely blown away by how well done this is, and although I wouldn't say it made me more hyped for Starfield, as I was already pretty hyped, I really do think that the Starfield Direct is a master class on how to showcase and share details about your video game. I think this should absolutely be used as an example on how game showcases should be handled in the future. But then looking beyond just Bethesda Game Studios, we also do have Phantom Liberty. I would argue all three Phantom Liberty trailers are really top tier. I think these two could be used as a great example on how to market a game successfully. And going into this one was a bit different for me. I played an hour of Phantom Liberty on Thursday, so it was interesting to watch this trailer knowing a bit more about the expansion than most. The vast majority of the time, when you have a hands-on with a game, you see the trailer first and then the hands-on is after that. An interesting part about this trailer is it seemed like it was entirely focused on the expansion story content. Based on my gameplay experience, there's a lot more going on with the patch 1.7 update and expansion. There's a lot of new mechanics being implemented into this game, just a lot of really cool features. If you want to see my full hands-on impressions, I of course go way more in depth there, although I could definitely see that some people were bummed out about the release date. We did have a high-profile rumor of a summer release showcase for this one, and with Phantom Liberty coming out on September 26th, that means it's just 20 days after Starfield. I'm probably not getting much sleep this September, and in general, I'm relatively okay with this release date. Although yes, I wish it was a bit further away from Starfield. I'd rather CDPR actually release Phantom Liberty when they're good and ready so we get a solid product this time around from day one. Although one thing that has had some fans concerned is they actually upped the system requirements quite considerably with Phantom Liberty. There are things such as them now requiring an SSD as a minimum to play the game, as well as the CPU requirements are fairly high. But at the same time, Phantom Liberty looked fantastic. You can see a lot of this in the trailers and even some of the gameplay I shared in my other video, but also just from my personal experience playing it, it was easily some of the best visual content I ever had in Cyberpunk. Although we also hear that the next update to Cyberpunk will not be coming before 90 days, so it seems like patch 1.7 is still a ways out if it does drop before Phantom Liberty. Outside of that, just commenting on some of the other miscellaneous games that I may not even really cover properly on this channel, but that were interesting to me. I thought the in-game Fable footage just looked ridiculously good. I feel like this was very much so the intent of this trailer, so everyone's takeaway would be like, wow, Fable looks really, really good. And quite a few games shown at this Xbox showcase do truly look like they're in the next gen, like we're finally getting there. But at the same time, this Fable trailer feels like such a throwaway trailer in my eyes. I suppose for a lot of fans, seeing something, getting some kind of update is better than nothing, but for me, it's honestly difficult to discern anything notable about the actual game from this trailer. So although it's probably a step above a full-on CGI trailer, it's almost in a similar category, where it's just not really getting me particularly hyped. Payday 3 is one of those games that I probably won't ever make a video on, unless, hey, they want to sponsor me, which I'm down for, but I'm definitely going to enjoy this one with friends. I thought Payday 3 looked pretty good. It looked like it had some interesting new mechanics, and just in general, it looks like one of those things that you play with a few buddies and you have a good time. The Microsoft Flight Simulator stuff looked really amazing to me. I've never played Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I think I'm going to try and pick up a flight stick for Starfield, hoping that it'll actually work with that game, but at the very least, I'm sure modders will add that in. So getting some flight sim stuff and then messing around in Microsoft Flight Simulator seems like a good precursor to Starfield, and I'll definitely be doing that. And this new update around Dune looks absolutely amazing. There were a couple of things from Bethesda Game Studios specifically that weren't here that I'm kind of curious as to how they handle the announcements of going forward. Fallout 4 Next Gen is apparently coming in 2023, although we basically know nothing about that, as well as those Skyrim paid mods are also probably coming at some point in 2023, and we don't know anything about that either. In just a couple of days, we are getting another Xbox showcase with the Xbox Game Showcase Extended, so perhaps the Fallout 4 trailer could end up popping up there. But overall, I thought this was a really good year for Xbox. This showcase was top tier. I'm not sure it was their best ever, but it's definitely in the conversation. I would definitely say it's in the top 5 ever. It feels like Xbox is finally turning that corner. They're finally starting to have some of these big RPGs coming out, and at the very least, we have Starfield and Phantom Liberty this year. Next year, we're getting Avowed, and then at some point in the next couple of years, we're likely getting this new In Exile RPG, so RPG fans should be eating good. Hopefully you guys found this one informative. Those are my thoughts and impressions on the showcase overall, and I am really tired. I flew back from LA today after playing Phantom Liberty, and I didn't get that much sleep on the plane. With that said, there's a lot more content coming, including a couple of massive trailer breakdowns, so you can look forward to that, and you should definitely get subscribed.